Welcome everyone to another episode of Face the Camera. I've got a great show for you guys today. In fact, I've probably got the most advanced show setup that I've ever done. I have this camera and I have this cool close-up shot just like this. And we are going to share the screen back and forth just like this. And I've got music playing behind me. We can turn that down just a little bit. Anyway, every Tuesday, every Friday, at this new time, which is 5 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm going live to help you guys show up in a bigger way, to help you learn all about how to use this medium, live video, and get really good practice doing it. And today, what we're doing is that I've had some conversations this last week, and two of the people that I talked to who were talking about wanting to do live video, two different people in just the last couple of days in my conversations with them, both of them had this same comment, which was, one of them said, "What do I do about trolls?" What do I do about all the trolls? And the other person, her comment was, well, if I go live on my profile on LinkedIn, aren't there a lot of people going to think I'm just going crazy? Like I've just gone crazy if I go live? All these people who are like my friends. So here's the thing. This is what I want to ask you today. Like any kind of content creation that you're doing, whether you're posting on social media with a blog post or any kind of text posting, or especially when you go to make video, are you wondering what people think? Are you wondering, oh no, I don't know if anybody will like this. I don't know if anybody will like me. I don't know if I will sound good. I don't know if I will look good. You know, do you have those questions going through your head before you hit the record button? So this is the topic for today. This is the thing that I want to cover and go over. And what I've done, like this last week, I have actually discovered some really cool influence to share with you in the form of Tyler Perry. And I just want to share that every single morning, and I'll get a little more intimate here. Let me just switch over to this camera. So every morning I go riding on my bike, and I ride from where I live down to Lexington and back. And it's about a 4.5 mile ride each way. And on the way there and on the way back, I always listen to a podcast or an audiobook. And this week I listened to a podcast where one of my favorite podcasters, who is actually a guy who teaches people about how to do podcasting really well. His name is Dave Jackson, and his whole thing is the School of Podcasting. And I highly recommend listening to his podcast, The School of Podcasting. He gives just tons and tons of content. But this week, his latest episode, he was exploring the world of Tyler Perry. And he had all these things to share, and he shared some clips that were audio clips. And basically, Tyler, if you've never heard of him, he is the guy who, I had never actually seen these movies, but I've heard of them. I've seen them around. He plays this character, a female character named Madea. And these are comedies. He's sort of like the Black Mrs. Doubtfire. If you've never seen him, that might possibly explain, but even though it's comedy, there's actually a lot of really good messaging going on. And he's become very successful, so successful as a creator that he has actually built his own movie studio in Atlanta. And it's huge. It's this big, huge movie studio that's sort of like the East Coast Hollywood. And so anyway, I got very inspired by the things that Tyler was saying. And these are the things that I want to share with you today. It's sort of, what can we learn? What can we, as video creators, learn from someone like Tyler Perry? And what are the lessons that somebody who obviously has faced the camera so often and so successfully, what could he teach us? What could we learn from him, from somebody like him? And I'm telling you, I've got a couple clips that I'm going to share of some lessons that he had to share, which I just think are really, really good. So I just want to see who's here, see who's in the comments. Awesome. James is here. He asked me, do you make videos for people? Great question. Yes, of course. But what I really do mainly is I'll show people like you, James, how to do this. So you don't need to hire someone like me. You can be doing this kind of thing yourself and be doing it in a way that is very, very simple and time efficient. So here's the thing that I wanted to do to set up the first clip that I'm going to share of Tyler Perry's. And that is, there's a Netflix series that's called Black AF. And this show is something that's created by a guy named Kenya Barris. And in this show, Kenya plays himself. And it's kind of this mockumentary, which is a style that I really, really like. Again, like it's sort of serious, but it's also comedy. It's very entertaining. And there's this one scene that Tyler Perry shows up in. And so Kenya is basically describing to Tyler, saying, hey, you know, whenever I make something, whenever I put something out, whenever I do any kind of project, I go on to the blog Rotten Tomatoes, which is a movie critic site. And I go and see what they said about my work. And I want to see if they like it or not. And so I thought, oh yeah, okay, light bulb. How many of you who are making videos or making any kind of content, you know, after you post it, do you go and check and see what people are saying? Like, are you checking the comments? Are you seeing how many views you got? Are you looking at how many people are liking it? Are you worried? Are you worried and concerned about people commenting in a negative way? You know, is this what you're preoccupied with? So this is the setup for the clip. And let me just share my screen here, and we'll see what Tyler has to say about this. So we're going to share screen and go here. And just give me a second here. We'll get this thing rolling. Okay, hang on. Get this out of the way. There we go. Boom.
I feel like you have figured out the beat of your own drum, and that's what you dance to, and it works for you. You don't seem like you care.
I don't.
I don't know how to do it, man. I feel like I really care what white people think. I feel like a lot. I care what everybody thinks. And to be honest with you, I feel like that's almost all I care about, it seems like.
What other people think? It's really sad, man. It's a sad existence.
It's not a great life. But it seems like every time I do a project, the first thing I do after the project comes out is go to Rotten Tomatoes.
But let me just tell you about them tomatoes. I don't fuck with them.
You don't fuck with tomatoes?
I don't give a damn about a rotten or a fresh. None of that means shit to me.
That's amazing. What about critics?
I don't give a fuck.
I guess that's amazing.
Can I just tell you why?
Please.
Because listen, man, I know that I'm telling stories that my folks want to see. I'm talking from our point of view. We're speaking a language. We're speaking a shorthand that we get, that white people don't necessarily get. Nina Simone said this, and I never forgot it. She said, you will use up everything you got trying to give everybody what they want. You got to focus, man. And you know what I do? I super serve my niche. We speak a language. We're talking. We know each other. We get it. There's a lot of times I see shit that win Oscars, I be like, what is this shit? I walked out halfway through it. I don't get it. But and listen, I feel like they feel the same way about my work. They don't get it, which is all cool. My mother, born in Jim Crow South in Louisiana, right down the street from Mississippi where Emmett Till was murdered. She told me the value of being who I am, of my blackness. She said, don't you ever let anybody tell you who you are. You know who you are. You know where you come from. I watched her stories. I watched her struggles. And that's what I'm telling. I'm telling the stories that I come from. And that's why they're winning, because people are recognizing themselves in these stories. No matter how crass the people think they are, no matter what the critics are saying, oh, I don't get this shit. I don't understand what it is. I don't give a fuck, because I'm talking to us. That's why millions of people are watching my shows every week. That's why people keep showing up and sending the movies to #1. I'm talking to us, connecting with us. You know what I'm saying? Let me tell you what you're doing. Trying to get them to approve you. That's what I don't get. Why are niggas running around trying to get white folks? So please tell me I'm special. Oh, give me your Oscar. Oh, let me know I'm all of these things that you want me to. Fuck that. Tell your story. Live in your own life, in your own culture. Tell your own experience. Can't nobody tell you how to be you. You hear what I'm saying?
I do, man.
Good.
I really fucking do.
Good.
Thanks, Tyler Perry.
You're welcome. Can you Barris? We doing government names?
I just felt like it was a special moment, man.
Yeah. All right.
Oh my God, these trips.
All right. So there we are. Come back to the actual camera. So I just love that. Now, apologize for the language, but that's the show. This is Netflix. And if you're up watching Netflix at night, these are the kinds of things you'll hear. But I think there are 3 key takeaways that I want to share with you that I think are sort of the lessons that we can glean from this, that Tyler is basically laying down for us. And, you know, this whole concern about what other people think is really this mistake of seeking other people's approval. And if we avoid that, if we can just avoid that pit, we're going to be able to show up in a much more strong and powerful way. So here is takeaway number 1 that I get out of this. Ignore your critics. So when you are out there and you're doing your video, don't worry about what people think. When you're live, you're real. You're doing this thing that is just you. And you don't need to worry about what people think about you, because actually, like, in terms of things like what do I look like or what do I sound like, your audience, whoever is tuning into you, what they care about most is them. And so if you're coming to it with a message that speaks to them and the things that they care about and the things that matter to them, and if you're saying the things that you believe and these are things that they believe, then they're going to connect with you. And this is all you need to be thinking about, is that, are you making a connection? Are you saying things that matter to your audience? So go ahead. You have my permission. Ignore your critics. So takeaway number 2. Serve your audience. Tyler's talking about how he super serves his audience. And how he does that, number 1, is that he really knows his audience. And he's speaking the language, which is the language of his audience. So they're using a shorthand. You know, there's this common vocabulary that people are connecting on. And this is exactly what you want to do. You want to go niching down into a group of people who are all connected and they're all passionate about this thing that you're passionate about, this thing that you're most wanting to connect around, this journey that you're taking on, this mission that's driving the business that you're behind and the work that you do. So when you're in this place, you know, you want to be serving this group of people in the best way you know how. And as long as you are serving your own people, who cares about critics? Like, yes, of course there'll be critics. Yes, of course there'll be trolls. Yes, of course there will be people out there who don't like you. And that's fine. Like, let them be. Like, let them go their merry way. Let them do whatever they want to do on some other lane. Your thing is for your people. And that's all you need to think about. You don't need to think about anybody else. As long as you are serving, and I mean, just like Tyler says, super serving your audience, great, awesome. That's your focus. That's the place where you need to be working the most. So let's see. Okay, so takeaway, that was takeaway number 2. The third takeaway, which is a really simple one, be yourself. When you go live, all you need to be thinking about is not, do you need to be like super expert? Do you need to be, know all the answers to all the questions? Do you need to, be anything other than what you really are? And the answer is no, of course not. Tyler talks about telling your own stories and knowing yourself and knowing where you came from. Now, his story, and I'm going to cue up another clip here. His story is that he has become so successful that he's built this really amazing, huge movie studio in Atlanta. And he built it on property that was, in fact, a former Confederate court or fort. Yeah, just right down in the center of Atlanta. So I'm going to play a clip that is from a BET award ceremony where he was being given, an annual award just from a couple years ago. And let's see if I can get this to queue up here. Here we go. And anyway, just listen to this. He's telling this same story about why he decided and where he decided to build this studio and the context, like the context of the location. So check this out. We'll just put this on. There we go. And I just got to get it running.
When I built my studio, I built it in a neighborhood that is one of the poorest black neighborhoods in Atlanta, so the young black kids can see that a black man did that and they can do it too. I was trying to help somebody cross. The studio was once a Confederate Army base, and I want you to hear this, which meant that there was Confederate soldiers on that base plotting and planning on how to keep 3.9 million Negroes enslaved. Now that land is owned by one Negro.
All right, so
to present the 20.
That is pretty... Okay, hang on. I got to try and get this to shut off. There we go. Got it. Okay, now I'm looking back at camera. There, we're back. All right, so inspiring. And this is sort of the last thing that I want to say about this, is that what I see in someone like Tyler is that his moves, like in his evolution of his work, he has been really solid in who he is and where he came from. And even at his most successful moments, he has had that connection of who he is and where he came from, and is able to tell that story and retell that story in a very inspiring way. So my question for you is, what's your story? Like, how can you be telling your story in a very powerful way? And I'd love to hear any comments you have about that, and be thinking about the kinds of things that you can be sharing that will inspire your audience, your people, that small group, of people who are as passionate about the thing that you do as you are. That group of people who are going to be working with you and following you and continuing along the journey that you are taking them on. How can you do that for your people? And how can you be not the expert, but someone who is the guide, someone who is a motivator, someone who is telling the story that will help them all be connected? So anyway, that's what I have for you today. And I will be going live again next Friday, on Friday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time. So Tuesdays and Fridays, stay tuned. Next Friday, I'm going to bring in yet another example of another creator who's doing amazing work. And her name is April Franks. And she is a very successful business coach who actually is also based down in Atlanta. And she's going to talk about why she has chosen to do video, as in, like, of all the things that she does to promote herself and to market herself, the number one thing that she's chosen is video. In fact, live video. And so here's somebody who's like super successful. She's, making 7 figures as a coach. And what does she do for marketing? She does this. She goes live. And, so if somebody like that strongly believes that live video is the way to go, then how about you? Maybe you should be thinking about it if you're not already doing it. So I want to say thank you to all you guys who are joining me today. And yeah, I'm going to turn this one off. Be yourself, Merc. And don't forget, Tuesdays and Fridays, new time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. I'm doing this at 5 because in my world here in Boston, I get this golden hour. Like, we're getting this amazing, beautiful light. And so right outside my window, I can have this backdrop and I can have this really beautiful surroundings all around me. And yeah, if I were to go live in the middle of the day, like I had been, the sun in the middle of the day is like streaming straight into this room. And so it just doesn't really work. I'd have to put like a sheet up over the window to diffuse it all. So I'm not going to do that. So anyway, here we are at this new time, and hopefully some of you, this will be a better time. It'll be actually a better time for you to tune in. So thanks for joining, and I will see you soon. I'm going to look at comments here. People are just saying hello. See if we can add this to the broadcast. Mark, look at that. Steve says hello. Well, great to see you too, Steve. And I'll hopefully see you next time. All right. So long, everyone. We are cutting this one out. And let's see, get this out of the way.